Support for this episode of PBS Reno Arts is provided by the Nevada Arts Council. Arts and creativity make us stronger, fueling innovation, prosperity, and thriving communities across Nevada. They boost our economy, promote well-being, and enhance education, empowering Nevadans of all ages. The Nevada Arts Council nurtures these essential creative forces. Together, let's elevate the arts in every corner of our great state. More at nvartscouncil.org. This is PBS Reno Arts. I'm Dave Santina in studio today with Ann Wolfe, the Andrea and John C. Deane family, Chief Curator and Associate Director at the Nevada Museum of Art. That's a mouthful, Ann, but that's your title over there, right?
That is my title.
Okay,
yes, thanks.
and you curate everything. Not exactly, but you seem to. Every time I see you, you're in the middle of a big project. And right now, the exhibit that I want to talk about just opened and is going to be around for a while. And it's fascinating to me. Deep Time Sea Dragons of Nevada. Tell me. I know it's too big to tell me in a nutshell, but what is this exhibit?
This has been a 2-year undertaking that introduces and in many cases reintroduces Nevada's beloved state fossil, the ichthyosaur, to our community throughout Nevada. It is part art, part science, part history, highly designed and very immersive for our visitors.
And you are behind all of it, right? This as the curator, you must be responsible for everything. Is that right?
Well, we work as part of a team. I'm actually the co-curator of this exhibition, along with the renowned paleontologist, Dr. Martin Sander, based in Bonn, Germany. And he's one of the world's leading scientists when it comes to the study of ichthyosaurs and marine animals. And then, of course, we also had a really amazing exhibition designer from Berlin, Germany, Nick Hoffermass, who brings the exhibition to life for everyone.
So you are essentially managing them, right? You have to. You are the representative of the museum. So this work, as you said, is 2 years in the making. This exhibit, I am overwhelmed by exhibits like this. This has so many moving pieces, so many elements. How do they come together? How do you arrange for something that's this large in scope?
Well, you know, at the museum, one of the things we really like to do is to not only tell Nevada stories, but to amplify them and to make people think differently about Nevada. And so an exhibition of this scope really involves pulling together an entire community of science advisors, paleontologists from across the state, and identifying, in this case, what were those special fossils, those ichthyosaur fossils, that had never been seen before. And what we learned was that many of Nevada's ichthyosaur fossils are not in Nevada at all. They're in museums in Los Angeles and Berkeley and Cincinnati and the East Coast. And so that was a big part of organizing and pulling this exhibition together.
So do you borrow those pieces from other museums to exhibit here as a temporary loan?
In the same way that we would borrow artworks from museums and galleries and artists, we have temporary loans from all of these different natural history museums and science centers that are part of this exhibition.
Okay, so what is there out there for people to see? Like, we'll walk into that exhibit, what happens? What do I experience?
So you're going to be confronted right away with a 35-foot ichthyosaur fossil, 250 million years old. And then you're going to get into far more detailed and more intricate fossils, multiple ichthyosaur skulls that have been excavated in Nevada, different flippers and paddles, and you'll learn about the ichthyosaur anatomy. But really, the fossils are only one part of the exhibition. We really wanted to tell the historical timeline of discovery in Nevada as well.
So how do you represent that?
So the exhibition historically comes together by telling really the 3, maybe 4 key points of discovery, paleontological discovery back to 1868, when Clarence King first surveyed the Great Basin for the U.S. government. We have examples from that survey. We have the story of the 1905 Saurian expedition to the Humboldt Mountains out by Lovelock. We have the story of the birth of Berlin Ichthyosaur State Park in the 1950s. And of course, we bring it all the way to the present day with what Martin Sanders is doing in the Augusta Mountains in central Nevada.
Now, I'm familiar with Berlin Ichthyosaur State Park. I have visited that location, but I'm not familiar with the other elements of that. The Saurian expedition is new to me. What's the story of that?
The Saurian expedition is one of the most little-known stories of exploration and discovery in Nevada that absolutely needs to be told. It was underwritten and participated in by a female paleontologist, Annie Alexander, from UC Berkeley, working with scientists from UC Berkeley, and they went into the Nevada desert on horseback on this trip that they called the Saurian expedition. Saurian just refers to any large animal like a dinosaur or an ichthyosaur. And they excavated over 25 ichthyosaur fossils on Fossil Hill out near Unionville, Lovelock area.
That's the Fossil Hill that I visited that on an old Wild Nevada episode one time. I did not know that actually held large fossils at one point.
Well, Fossil Hill's now in private hands, so it's hard to get there to visit. But all of the fossils that were excavated in 1905 were taken to UC Berkeley, the UC Berkeley Museum of Paleontology, which is a research museum. And those fossils have been in the basement of that natural sciences building for 119 years, and no one has seen them.
That's incredible. So are they part of this exhibit now?
They are part of this exhibit. We've brought some major fossils. That's the 35-foot Symbospondylus petrinus that I referred to. That's the largest ichthyosaur fossil existing in North America that we have. And it's the real one is right here on view in the exhibition.
That's incredible. Tell me that again, that species name.
Symbospondylus petrinus.
Now, I have to admit, I read that from the press release and tried to say it and didn't say it that well. So I'm going to work my way up to being able to duplicate.
Well, if you're going to remember a species name, you should remember Shonosaurus popularis. That is our state fossil. There's a specific species, and that was the fossil discovered in Berlin Ichthyosaur State Park. And it refers both to the Shoshone Mountains and then the word popularis, which is the people. So it's the people's fossil.
The people's fossil. I love it. I had no idea. Well, so I feel a sense of ownership now, a slight sense of ownership over one fossil, as should we all, apparently. So that Saurian expedition proved to be very fruitful, and I had no idea. So the beauty of exhibits like this is that they introduce us to some of our history that we didn't realize, and it's, it for lack of a better term, from our backyard.
And an amazing woman who was a champion for science and who needs to be introduced to our educators and school children all across the state. Who
I believe you have written a book about. Is that what I see next to you there? I think you have your children's book that you wrote about Annie, correct?
That's right. We did publish a children's book, Annie Alexander's Amazing Adventure. And really the kernel of the idea for this was that my kids were coming home from school talking about the British female paleontologist Mary Anning, who was discovering ichthyosaurs. And I knew that there was this heroine of science right here in our backyard, and that the way to introduce her story was really through kids. But so I wrote the story, but Kate O'Hara, an amazing local artist here from Reno, Nevada, illustrated the book. And she brings Annie Alexander's story to life on every single page.
I know that name, Kate O'Hara. In fact, for those listening, if you go and seek out an Artifacts episode on PBS Reno, use her name. If you search Artifacts and Kate O'Hara, you'll find a story we did years ago. She had done a poster one year for Art Town, and we did a profile on her. And her work is very naturalistic, right? She likes to do work based in nature.
Kate O'Hara is an amazing illustrator. Again, you might also know her work because she is the artist behind the Great Basin Brewing Company Icky IPA label. So she designed the beer can that's popular here and that also honors the ichthyosaur. So you've probably seen her artwork throughout the community.
I did not realize that she was so tied to this fossil or to this prehistoric beast in the way that she is. That's fun. So how do you go about turning a piece of knowledge like the story of Annie Alexander, the things you come across in your research, into a book, and not just a book, but a book that is designed to educate children?
Well, we wanted this book to be historically accurate, but also imaginative and fun. And so Annie Alexander left a beautiful scrapbook that she made using photographs of her trip. So we combined a lot of that material alongside, our knowledge of the geology of the region and how paleontologists go into the field to really bring to life this story. And I think it's a beautiful merger of this art and science, and how there's curiosity and discovery really at the root of both of those fields.
Does the story delve a little bit into Annie's youth and maybe her inspirations? I have not read the book yet.
The story really tracks their journey out to the desert on horseback. They've got their tents. They're using dynamite to break up the places where the rock where they find the fossils so that they can haul it out on horseback. And then we talk about ichthyosaur and their significance in Nevada. And it's a great summary of her experiences here in our state.
That's nice. What was the basis, the material you used as the foundation for writing this book?
Well, it really is Annie's story. So there was a great biography that came out on her a couple years ago by Barbara Stein. But then really it was that historical material, so the photographs that she left to us in her journals as well.
So primary sources there. That's her actual work you were able to take and immediately then transition into this form. So how much of what she did can we see in this exhibit, this Deep Time Sea Dragons of Nevada?
Well, we have a number of the fossils that they excavated. We also have some pages from her scrapbook. And what's really special is that we have her pair of boots that she wore in the field. So those she left to the Museum of Vertebrate Paleontology at UC Berkeley. And the moment I saw them, I couldn't believe that a woman would wear them into the field in 1905 with laces up to her calves. But they're
really?
maybe not quite to her calves, but almost. But so we wanted to make sure that those were included.
So were those boots designed at the time more for style than for function?
I would say so. This was at the time where, women were still wearing sometimes long dresses into the field, sometimes pants when they would go out on a scientific journey like this. And so we wanted to capture that moment in history.
I'm looking forward to seeing those. That's a great piece to include in this, because it so humanizes the effort to find all of this history. I'm always fascinated by the work you do in preparing an exhibit, because to me it's overwhelming in when I think about it. We worked together years ago on a documentary project that was based on your curated exhibit on Tahoe. And so I got to see the mounds of research material that you collect before you then turn it into this strikingly beautiful visual experience for people. Can you describe the process of, from the beginning? How do you even decide what you're going to create? And what's the process by which you decide, okay, this is worth investing this amount of time and money and effort in, versus something that you discuss and maybe do some pre-research on and realize, not quite to that level? How do you do that?
Well, I think, at the museum, we do have this commitment to telling Nevada's stories, but to also placing them into a larger global context. So with this exhibition, all of a sudden, I think it was 2021, we saw an article in the New York Times about a 7-foot ichthyosaur skull that had been excavated in the Augusta Mountains. And that skull got whisked away to the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles. So a light bulb went off, right? Well, here's a story that we know about Berlin Ichthyosaur State Park from the 50s, but I think there's a lot more going on. And once we started delving into the current research, we realized that, what's happening here in Nevada is happening, there's ichthyosaur research and science taking place in China and in Europe and in Spitsbergen and in British Columbia. And there's this entire community out there, and that we needed to bring our community up to speed on why Nevada is so important. So then, you want to surround yourself with experts. So Dr. Martin Sander comes into the picture, this amazing designer, all of our scientific advisors, because I don't come from a scientific background. I consider myself more of a storyteller and an art historian. And then you have to get really, really granular. You have to go deep down a rabbit hole for years to try to determine what are all of the different stories and angles that you can bring to life and translate them to the general public. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of detail. But there's one story in particular that I think might be of interest. And it's, the story of how this animal, the ichthyosaurs, fascinated entire communities in Nevada. So with the community of Hawthorne and Walker Lake, there's Paiute oral histories about bones that used to stick out of the side of mountains. And that becomes the basis and the genesis of this story of Cecil the sea serpent, who lives in Walker Lake. And then that becomes the mascot of Hawthorne High School. And so in the exhibition, we brought together all of this fun memorabilia, souvenirs, and this story, that to a community is really galvanizing and important, but we tell that visually and make it fun too.
And to do that, you spend, I think, countless hours over the course of maybe more than 2 years. So you say it's 2 years in the making. Is it really just 2 years? I say just, but in order to even reach the point where you decide we need to talk to Martin Sander and we need to get these professionals in here, how much time before you even make that commitment to making an exhibit?
I'll give it 2.5 years, but we're a really ambitious team, and we have a really great opportunity and an important platform and a really robust community that wants stories and wants knowledge, and so a curator's work is never done.
Right. So, and along those lines, I imagine that while this is happening over these 2.5 years, you're not only preparing this, but you're probably looking ahead and maybe talking about what comes later. Is that how it works?
That is how it works. And what's really exciting about this particular exhibition is that it's interdisciplinary. It blends art, science, and history. And we really see it as the runway for the opening of our new Education and Research Center that's due to open next spring of 2025, where we will have a new space for our Center for Art and Environment, new galleries. And this exhibition, I think, really drives home the education focus of our programming. And that's really special right now.
Yeah, and I know you have a series of events that will stretch out across the span of this exhibit for people to come, lectures, participatory events, right? You've got a series of things coming, and so people will not. It's not just an exhibit that's available for you to come visit, but you can actually participate with the museum over the course of the next year and a half. How this exhibit runs through next year, correct?
This exhibit will run through January of 2026, and we have a slew of public programs. We have a series on Nevada paleontology, a series on paleo art and pop culture, a series on women in science. And if that's not enough, we have pajama parties for the kids. And every second Saturday of the month is free to our entire community with hands-on activities for kids that'll be themed to this exhibition as well.
Nice. Just pajama parties only for the kids?
I believe that you need to have a parent come, so the parent may also wish to wear pajamas.
Okay.
But no adult pajama parties at this time.
All right. I'm just want to make sure.
I can take that recommendation back.
I think that's worth a shot. Could be a lot of fun. And I also see, I'm looking at a list of some of the events. One of them is an art bite, which is, I know, a series you provide of like small. I guess the bite indicates it's a small piece of
it's a Friday lunchtime
story.
A lunchtime talk on Fridays.
It's a lunchtime talk. Okay, on the birth of Icky IPA. So the beer that's named after this. That's not a fossil when they're talking about that. It's the animal itself.
So Tom Young, of course, is a geologist turned brewmaster who really had a lot to do with the invention of Icky IPA. He's been instrumental to the entire project, actually, shuttling us out to the desert, helping to support all aspects of this project. But it's fun to hear him talk about how, brews and paleontology come together.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. That's June of 2025. So you've got time to get your tickets. But I'm looking ahead and thinking about how fun this year plus will be with all of these public programs that you've put together. I think that takes a team. That's not all just you, right?
Absolutely. It's a whole team effort. Not only do we have all of these public programs running, we have a really robust education program where we'll have school tours coming and going throughout the entire 16 months. And we've also partnered with the Terry Lee Wells Discovery Museum of Nevada to co-produce a new educator's toolkit and new curriculum related to ichthyosaurs in Nevada, and that's being rolled out throughout the state. It's available to all educators, and of course, PBS Reno is helping us to distribute that throughout all of Nevada and our rural communities too.
That's fantastic. So this is a multi-headed creature. This exhibit, and I'm excited to come see it. I have yet to get in. It's only just at the time of this recording, it's only just opened. So you're enjoying a little time off after all of the lead up, right?
A little bit, and then we'll be on to the next.
Right. So are you already working on your next exhibit?
I am working on 3 different major exhibitions right now that I'm not ready to share.
I won't ask you to spoil anything. I think it's impressive, the ability to juggle. Some people struggle with multitasking. This is, to me, multitasking at a gargantuan level. You're talking about the amount of work that it takes for just one exhibit, and you're doing pre-work on up to 3 more. Without giving anything away, I'm not asking for details, but I am curious about this time in your work life as you're preparing it for 3 different exhibits. Is that a situation where they will all happen already? We know this, or are you doing the kind of preliminary work that helps you determine whether any of these should be an exhibit?
Well, right now we're deep into book projects and checklists for the exhibitions that will be up when the new building opens, the expansion opens, and then curators also often keep multiple checklists in their desk drawer. So I have exhibitions that, an exhibition, particularly the kind I organize, which are more historical in nature as an art historian, you are always building checklists. You're looking for ideas. You're networking and, again, talking with experts in different fields to put those together. So it's just when you feel ready to pull the trigger, so to speak, then you really have to get moving.
Gotcha. Okay. And so we know about Annie Alexander's Amazing Adventure in Nevada, the children's book you've written. My question beyond that is there an exhibit book for this exhibit like you have done in the past? I have the Tahoe exhibit book in my office. It's a very impressive piece. Those exhibit books are usually quite large, and they seem like, just on their own, quite an undertaking. And I believe you wrote that one, and I assume you write for every exhibit.
The museum has done a number of amazing publications. In fact, we just published Maynard Dixon's Sagebrush and Solitude book. We chose not to do a major book for this, but let me tell you, I don't know if I'll ever do a book over 12 pages again. I have been asked more about this children's book than any other book almost than we've published, and I think it's just a testament to I think the desire for sort of curiosity and childlike imagination in all of us. There's something about this book that brightens people's faces. They get it for their grandkids, and it's just a really lovely, beautifully illustrated book.
I have no doubt, and I actually look forward to reading it because I love books like this, and I'm excited to take a look. And I love it. I love your writing and Kate O'Hara's artwork as well. So that it's a winning combination, I can imagine already. So the exhibit again is it's running through did you say January of 2026?
January of 2026.
Okay, so there's plenty of time to get there, but we don't want people to wait. How can people come to see the exhibit? What time of the week or of the year is available?
Well, we are open Tuesdays through Sundays, so we're closed on Mondays, and we're open late on Thursdays, and you don't need to purchase tickets in advance, you can purchase them right there at our main desk at 160 West Liberty Street. And we're pretty easy to access. And again, the second Saturday of the month is free to families and our community. And if you're a UNR student or a TMCC student, you have free admission any day of the year.
Nice. Thank you. And is this exhibit sponsored by a particular supporter? I know sometimes they're sponsored.
We have a tremendous list of sponsors, so many that I cannot even mention any one individual. Probably about 30 sponsors locally have come together to help support this interesting story.
That says a lot. The museum has a very rich, and I mean that not in the literal sense, but the figurative sense, pool of supporters who love what you do and are always ready to help in whatever way they can. And I think that says a lot right by itself, just the fact that you've got people who are always there for you. That means they trust you.
Very grateful for the community of supporters, both here in Northern Nevada and broader Nevada and internationally and nationally as well. Well,
I look forward to the next 3 exhibits that you're working on. I'm suspecting they won't come out at the same time. Maybe the next 6 years worth of work for you is already begun. 2 years apiece, perhaps.
We're just on a roll. So there's many, many projects coming up that are to be excited about.
Right. Well, thank you for taking a moment from your week off to come and talk about this. I am excited to go and see it, and I hope everybody who listens is as well. You should be. I think this is going to be fantastic. I want to mention that along with this short podcast, we are doing an artifacts story on the exhibit. So keep an eye out for that in the near future on PBS Reno. And if you come to this podcast months later or even years later, go to the pbs.org website and find it, because it'll be there to view. And I'm excited for that as well. It's a privilege sometimes to get to see these projects in process, because it's so impressive to see what goes into it. It's beautiful at the end, but just seeing the work is overwhelming sometimes. And I think people appreciate it more when they know how much went into it.
Well, thank you, Dave, and we always appreciate our longtime partnership with PBS Reno as well.
Thank you. Well, we'll continue it going down the road. Now, watch Artifacts if you're not already. Watch Artifacts on PBS Reno via broadcast or live stream on pbsreno.org or by our YouTube channel, and then read art views on pbsreno.org. Please, we have 5-6 regular writers, I think now, and some guests who come in from time to time as well. So we really do appreciate their volunteering their time and their writing skills, and they're all worth reading. Now, do you have a question or maybe a comment or a suggestion for me about this podcast or about the arts in general on PBS Reno? Well, send them to me, please, at podcasts@pbsreno.org, and I appreciate whatever you are willing to share. My thanks to Ann Wolfe from the Nevada Museum of Art, and thank you for listening to PBS Reno Arts. Support for this episode of PBS Reno Arts is provided by the Nevada Arts Council. Arts and creativity make us stronger, fueling innovation, prosperity, and thriving communities across Nevada. They boost our economy, promote well-being, and enhance education, empowering Nevadans of all ages. The Nevada Arts Council nurtures these essential creative forces. Together, let's elevate the arts in every corner of our great state. More at nvartscouncil.org.